Let me paint you a picture. It's summer 2023, and Leeds United have just been absolutely hammered by Tottenham Hotspur, and we're in the dressing room exactly after the match. Now, it's a dressing room full of people that are enjoying being at Leeds United and disappointed at the fact they just got relegated, in addition to some people that are far more mercenary, just wanted to play football for the money, move to the Premier League maybe because it's got more exposure, and don't want to be there next season. This is where Liam Cooper had his say and said that if you don't want to play for Leeds United, then quite simply, you can fuck off. And that was it. Leeds United, as a result, immediately started on the rebuild, getting rid of the players that didn't want to be there, bringing in players that might want to be there, and creating something a little bit better. But there is still a lot of work to be done, since a lot of those players that left didn't do so permanently. They did it on loan, and will probably end up returning in the summer unless Leeds United actively do something about it and sort of force them to leave in a friendly way. Some clubs might actually want them, who knows? But there is an important note before I dive into this, and it's the fact that there is still room for redemption. Think about Willy Gnonto, for example. Willy Gnonto tried to force his way out in the summer, ended up not. We hated him for a bit, now he's back, and we love him again. This can happen with any players, so any players that don't leave, that's not the biggest problem. It's okay. We might learn to love them again. It'll take a lot, but we might. Anyway, I'm going to run through all of the players that left Leeds United on loan and how exactly we can get them to leave permanently, how they're doing so far elsewhere, and yeah, it should be a fun video. So first I'm going to start with Diego Llorente, who is one of the simpler ones to discuss here. Roma need to make a lot of money this summer because they're having FFP issues. Now, you might immediately think that this doesn't really make it easy for us to sell Diego Llorente. However, it means that they are likely to look for assets that they can sign in order to sell them for a profit. Makes a little bit of sense. Plus, Diego Llorente is playing there regularly anyway, so he's proving himself to Roma no matter what. So he's quite likely to get at least some football if he does go there and ends up not being sold. It means that we are likely to sell him at slightly under the market value just to shift the wages off the books, because you've got to remember a lot of these players came in with a lot of money in the contracts. So Llorente was more than, I think, 50k a week or something bonkers like that. And that is a wage that we're able to get off the books in addition to getting a fee in. That's not the biggest problem. The fee is expected to be something like £4.2 million. It's thought that Roma have a clause in their contract, which isn't a problem for us in the slightest. It equates to €5 million, something that Roma can afford, something that we'd be happy to take in addition to getting rid of those wages. Selling for a loss is effectively certain because we did sign him for like £18 million, but Diego Llorente isn't that player anymore, and at least this way we get rid. Diego Llorente is one of those players that we will quite easily get rid of, especially when you compare him to Rasmus Kristensen. He legitimately could be impossible to shift. It could be a difficult one. He's reportedly unlikely to make Roma's squad for the Europa League, which shows that he's not like a fundamental part of the way that they play. However, he has been playing a fair bit in the league. So whilst he hasn't been signed onto the Europa League squad, he's playing a little bit in Serie A, but he's not really setting the world alight. He does suit Italian football a little bit more than he does English football, though, because it's lower paced. His frankly horrific positioning doesn't make that much of a difference. And although he hasn't set the world alight, he might not have done enough to secure a long-term move. There will be clubs in Italy that have seen him and gone, yeah, we could do with that. Now, we might need to cut his price to sell him because we did sign him for something like 12 million quid, and I do not expect us to make a profit on him because he was disappointing in his season here. He's not a high enough quality to make Roma's Europa League squad. But yeah, he was an abject disappointment at Leeds United. We won't make a profit on him. And on the subject of abject disappointments, sorry, Brendan, but Brendan Aaronson needs to be talked about in this section. He went to Union Berlin, who thought that they were signing a dynamic number 10 that was able to create chances, maybe score some goals, and help them to keep on building on what was a decent bit of progress they had last season. He came off the bench this weekend, and he got a rating of 5.9 out of 10 from WhoScored.com. They've also listed some of his major weaknesses this season, and you think as a midfielder, what you need to do is you need to pass it around quite nicely, maybe take the occasional shot, have a go, and dribble the ball about, progress it. Brendan Aaronson's weaknesses are passing, shooting, and dribbling. Everything you could be asking a midfielder to do, unless they're a defensive midfielder. But he isn't. Moving him on will be incredibly hard, but you also need to consider the fact that he listened to the fan opinion on Americans that we had last season when a bunch of American players came in, performed like crap, and obviously fans were unhappy with that. His response to that was, I don't give a shit. It doesn't bother me. So clearly he didn't really like it that much at Leeds. He wasn't really paying attention to what the fans were doing, saying he didn't have that much of a link with the club. He also has a UK driving ban, which is something that I'm 100% certain will disincentivize him from staying here. And he's very un-Leedsy in his mentality. He's not someone that will happily take a tackle and just pay it back later on. He's not someone that will keep on grinding for the team. He's someone that will feel a bit of contact and go down because he thinks he can get a free kick. The season in the Championship might have done him well because it would have taught him that lesson. The Bundesliga clearly has not. So I don't think we'll be able to move him on permanently at the end of the season unless, again, we take a massive loss and it might be another loan for him, which is disappointing because we need a bit of cash through the door, but that's not where we are right now. Max Wober, also in the Bundesliga, feels a little bit more promising. He seems a lot more likely to be able to make a move because when he's fit, he plays consistently for Mönchengladbach and he plays pretty well, which makes it very simple to get a decent fee for him. We paid 10 million quid, and I don't think we should expect to make a loss here because he arrived at Elland Road, admittedly wasn't very good, but he immediately found a move elsewhere, has performed to a good standard, so it might have just been being unable to adapt properly to playing in England for the first time. I think we'll end up making, at worst, a break-even fee, maybe a profit, and it does support the fact that eventually we'll be able to sign Joe Rodon permanently, because I don't see Rodon costing that much more than Wober. Maybe £15 million, something in that area, but that's basically fine for a player that's gotten you promoted. We should be able to find a move for him, even if it isn't Mönchengladbach, but I feel like Gladbach is the one that makes sense, considering they are reportedly in discussions to sign him permanently anyway. Now we move on to someone that spent their year in England, one of two of our loan players that have done so, Luis Sinisterra already having found a permanent move. Jack Harrison has been kicking on pretty well at Everton. He's playing very consistently when he's available. He's getting picked for the side. He is a regular. He's scored 3. He's gotten 3 assists, and 2 of those goals have come in recent weeks. And he is a key player, so it's fair enough that Everton might want to make a permanent move, and there are reports that there is a clause in his contract that Everton will be able to sign him for £20 million in the event that Leeds United do not get promoted. I think even if we don't get promoted, we'll probably sell him, because Daniel Farke's conversation on microwave meals and the fact that if you try and reheat something, it's never going to be as good. I think Harrison's made his decision by leaving in the first place. I don't think he'll be that welcome back, because Daniel Farke has made it clear that there is a line. There is, however, something that could cause an issue here. There's a big old but. If Everton do go down, there could be a little bit more of an issue here, because Jack Harrison, although good, isn't someone that a championship club signs for 20 million quid. But I do still expect him to move on in that circumstance, because you've got to remember that before last season, there were several clubs floating around Jack Harrison. He's someone that clearly has a bit of talent about him. You can't forget that his first touch is impeccable, and he'll always give you like a 7 or 8 out of 10 sort of performance. He's never someone that will slump to being the worst player on your team. And that's something that a Premier League club can really value, I think. So I'd expect to be able to move him on, £20 million-ish, another little bit of money in the kitty. I'm not going to complain in the slightest. And another move that I think is going to be pretty simple to do is Marc Roca's, because he has been very much impressing at Betis. He's paired up really well with Isco, who also came into their midfield in the summer. Early in the season, they were one of the best passing duos in the division, and he has even had his say on what he thinks is going to happen. He says that he's happy there at Betis. He's not said that if we get promoted, he's not committed his future one way or the other, but he has confirmed that he has another loan clause if we do stay down, which tells me that he's not someone that's going to come back to Leeds for the club. If he ever comes back to Leeds, it's going to be for the Premier League football, and that is not the sort of player that we want at the moment. We want someone that is going to come in, be committed, and stay at Leeds, or be sold by Leeds. But either way, wants to be here because they want to be here, not wants to be here because they want to show themselves off for the Spanish national team coach. There were some discussions over a permanent move back in November, which is very promising. It shows signs towards a potential movement, and I don't think he's going to be the biggest challenge to sell. But that is all of the loan players off the top of my head. that we are looking to get rid of in the next summer window, at the very least, ideally permanently for all of them, but I feel like that might not necessarily be possible. There are the likes of Sam Greenwood, who is out on loan at Middlesbrough, but then again, he already has a buy clause in his deal for £1.5 million, so that's not going to make a huge difference. But I want to know what you think. Let me know your thoughts on this entire shebang in the comments down below. Is there anyone that we won't be able to get rid of, for example? Like the video if you enjoyed it at any point, and subscribe if you haven't yet. That is always massively appreciated. I will see you later. Oh shit, I forgot to say. I made a decision on the kit thing that I mentioned in the last video. I'm going to go for the lilac one. You know, the one that we wore in the Brentford away game at the end of the 21-22 season. I just like that kit. Anyway, see you later.